Hey, I'd like to welcome you to another episode of the Mission Matters Marketing Podcast, your source for all things marketing. My name is Adam Torres. You can follow me on Instagram at AskAdamTorres. Keep up with my book releases, book tour schedule, signings, all that other good stuff. Always love to connect with you there. And as always, if you'd like to apply to become a co-author of one of my upcoming books, just head on over to the website, missionmatters.com, and click on Become an Author to apply. All right, so today I have J.C. Granger on the line, and he's CEO over at Infinity Marketing Group. J.C., welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
So excited to get into today's topic. I mean, right now there's a lot of, things going on with this coronavirus, everything else that's happening. And for some people, this is going to be the perfect time for them to think about growing their business. So we're going to get into that. But before we do, I want to get a little bit further into what you're doing over at Infinity Marketing Group. So tell us a little bit more about the company, please.
Sure. So we've been around about 9 years now. I've been doing digital marketing personally for a little over 20.
Congratulations, by the way. That's a big milestone, though. 9 years,
yeah.
That's huge. Congrats on that to start. Yeah.
Almost a decade. We'll have to have a big cake or something next year when we do it. But we specialize in B2B tech companies very specifically. Now, we have clients in other industries because we get a lot of referrals, but we really concentrate on the B2B tech world. So IT services, software, SaaS, things like that.
And so what are the typical, just so that people listening have a good feel, like what are the typical clients or niches or size of the companies? Like what's your normal, ideal client profile so they know if they're the right type of client to follow up with you?
Yeah, we really deal with a lot of the small to medium-sized tech companies. If you're kind of in that 11 to 50 employees or maybe, up to 100 employee range, we're probably a really good fit because we're kind of that second stage agency. We don't usually work with individual or 2-3-man teams, but we typically, after you really gain traction, you're doing, 1 to 5 to 10 million or so a year. That's when you bring us in. We're the agency you have just before you can afford to bring a full marketing division in-house kind of thing, right? So we're the team that gets you to that point. And we do full service, everything from websites, SEO, social media, paid ads, video, LinkedIn marketing, obviously. I mean, you name it, we have it, and we're all in-house as well.
That's awesome. And I know you've been focusing a little bit on the podcasting niche. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, it kind of happened by accident. I'll actually give a shout out to another podcaster that does non-competitive to you. His name is Jason Swank.
No, I'm not. Yeah. Hold on. First of all, you haven't been listening to the show often because just so you know, JC, I bring on podcasters and let them promote their podcast on the show all the time, and I want to send them traffic. Why? Because we're all this together. I love podcasting. Yeah. I love the podcast community, and I'm here to help grow it. I mean, I run a school that literally teaches people how to podcast. Well, I love it. So just throwing that out there. So give him a shout out. And what's the name of his podcast? Go ahead.
Yeah, one of my favorite podcasters is Jason Swank. He does the Swank Show Today, and it's basically a marketing agency podcast. So he helps out agencies, and I've been listening to his podcast for like 3 years. And one day I said, you know what? I've consumed so much of this guy's information. I just, and I never bought his products, anything like that. But I was like, you know what? I want to give him something back for free. So I called him. I said, hey, I want to do this LinkedIn thing for you to help you get more guests on your show. I'm not going to charge you anything. I'm just happy to do it because I've learned a lot from the years of your podcast. And he was like, awesome, thanks. So we started doing that for him. And he used to do one show a week, and he'd be booked out about 3 months in advance. Not bad, right? That's actually really good. By the time we had gone maybe through 3 or 4 months of working with him, he was booked out a year in advance. And then after about 6 months, he had to start going to 2 and 3 podcasts. I think 2 right now, 2 podcasts per week. And even now, then he just said, hey, listen, he goes, I don't need to promote it anymore. So we're switching gears. So he was so happy with that he told a lot of his agency owners and other podcast friends, and they started contacting us like, hey, can you get us guests on there too? And I was like, sure. I mean, it wasn't something we specialized in. It's just, it turns out that our system worked really well for that because we're B2B. We became experts in a lot of things, but one in particular was doing lead generation for B2B tech companies. Well, just tweaking that a little bit turned out that it's really easy to find the podcast guests you're looking for with our system. So out of completely nowhere, that's a little side division we have now that just helps podcasters. Yeah.
Man, that's awesome. Let's switch it up a bit, JC. So let's get into why right now there's some actual. Obviously, nobody wants to ever be happy that bad things are happening in the economy. I mean, a lot of people being hurt right now, but there is another side of the argument. I tell people this all the time, so I'm not putting you under the fire on this one. I also believe this. Why is now potentially a good time for some businesses to think about expanding and to kind of doubling down on growing their company?
Well, I think the first thing I want to say is that it's not a matter of, it's not war profiteering, right? It's about the opportunity to help people who have a need for it. So, for example, because we concentrate in tech, I'll be honest, when all this started happening, I had that gut check, like, holy crap, like, we can be okay. Now, granted, we went through the recession and stuff, so we learned a lot of lessons because that happened like right when I started my agency. And so I learned a lot, and we were lean for years because I was like, something like this could happen again. Now, it wasn't a recession by itself, but we're in that same situation now where we could get to one. So we were a little bit better off because our infrastructure was more resilient. That being said, I was really nervous. I was a little scared because I have people, and I take care of my people, and they mean a lot to me. And I was like, I didn't want to fire anybody. I didn't want to have to cut back or anything. Now, what ended up happening, literally in the last 48 hours, I kid you not, my entire feel is different because right now people are turning to technology to help circumvent all the issues happening right now, right? If you have a company that does video conferencing or any kind of online, workflow management, anything like that, if you're in that kind of tech space, if you work with wholesale distribution or workflow, you're going to thrive, right? Well, it just turns out that we work with those companies already. So I'm now being inundated with inbound leads coming in saying, hey, can you help us out? And I'm like, holy crap. And, we got off the call this morning with a company that is creating, they're a tech company that's going to be creating coronavirus resources in one giant umbrella of websites to help people do telemedicine, which is when you can talk to a doctor via video conference, because people need to know if they have the right or wrong symptoms for this. And so there are millions of people looking for this. And so we are literally looking at building out an entire series of websites just to help with this. So for the first time in a long time, not only do I think we're going to be, just fine, through all this, but I think it might be our best year just work-wise because of the demand that we're going to help fulfill. But honestly, most importantly, the fact that we get to have a direct impact on things that are going to help people through this makes me feel really good. I've spent a decade with my own agency almost. Never once have I gotten to work on a project where I felt like I was making a direct impact on something really, really big, right? I've worked for tech companies, and that's great. But, what were they doing? Okay, software that makes people's lives a little easier, but when did you really make an impact? And right now is the opportunity for us to work with clients that are literally helping people get through their lives right now. And so this is a really big time for us, not only from the business side, but just morale-wise and altruism-wise. It just feels really good. So if you're in an industry, I guess anyone listening, if you're in an industry that is going to be able to help, don't feel guilty that you're making more money. Don't price gouge. Don't be that person either. But don't feel guilty that you're thriving when other people are failing, because you're clearly helping. If you're being inundated with leads right now, or if you're going to make a lot of money, it's because the service you offer helps.
Yeah, I love it. And in my mind, I love that you brought up the point that it's not profiteering. So profiteering would be you buy a bunch of masks because you see the crisis coming, you mark them up, and then you put them on eBay and make a bunch of money because and I'm not knocking those people, okay, whatever.
Well,
but that being said, they're opportunists, they're traders. I mean, and there's higher levels of doing this, and it's a plan. They don't always win, so they lose some of these bets too, and then that's the way they choose to make their money. Fine, but they lose also, so there's losing sides of that too, and that's not their first rodeo on trying to buy a mask and flip it. So they might be making up for something else that they gauged wrong. But this is talking about adding value. So this is going to the core of what we do. So I didn't really understand the significance of what I do until this happened, because I got an email I get emails all the time, and I got an email from a woman who said that her trip to the islands had been canceled, and it was her vacation. And she said, so I guess instead of vacationing, going to the islands, it's going to be Netflix and your podcast. And I'm like, I mean, it made me smile. I'm like, oh, that's why those dollars are going up. People are at home, they're bored, they need something else to do, they're tired of listening to the negative news all day long, and they're inundated with all this other stuff, which again, that's, there needs to be some actual real reporting about things. So I'm not knocking the regular news, but there needs to be another side of the coin, and I happen to be the other side of the coin. So I kind of understood my value in helping some of these people that are at home, self-quarantine, not go crazy and listen to some positive things, and things like you, JC, and that amazing story you're selling. You're like, I don't want to sound bad here, but businesses, we're like providing some needs here that we've never even had the opportunity to do before. So when you think about preparation and what you've done in your growth through this decade almost, you're coming on your agency, it was all preparation for this moment. Like, you're going to help save lives. That's amazing.
And that's the part, like, this is the first time we actually have that kind of direct, I mean, actual tangible direct outcome, by doing these telemedicine websites and these, there's a lot of different things that we're doing, but it's all direct impact, which is, and we feel awesome. Like, our brains are on fire. We're all riled up right now. We're working a mile a minute. It's awesome stuff.
Man, that's exciting. So, JC, that being said, I could talk to you about this all day long, but we're about out of time. If somebody's listening to this and they want to connect and they want to learn more about Infinity Marketing Group, what's the best way for them to do that?
Yeah, best way, go to our website at www.infinitymgroup. The M stands for marketing, so infinitymgroup.com. Again, the people who would probably be the most interested in talking to us are going to be people who are in the B2B space, because that's where we really specialize and thrive. We're full service. We mostly work with tech, but we have a ton of companies in different industries, that come to us. So if you just like what we have to say and you like our attitude, we'll take inbound of other industries, but we go after and really specialize in that B2B tech space. LinkedIn marketing being one of our big ones, because that's where the platform where you can really find those people to get those conversations started. But yeah, I say our website is the easiest one. If anybody wants to reach out to us via email, you can just send an email to info@infinitymgroup.com, and those are probably the easiest ways, and somebody will answer you from there.
Man, that's awesome. Well, hey, JC, been great having you on the show today, and congrats on all the great things you're doing out there with this new group of sites and everything else you're doing to help your clients. And I'm going to definitely have you back on in 2021. We're going to do a reunion episode, and I want to hear how the rest of the year, how the rest of your year played out, and how everything else launched, because I'm excited. It's going to be awesome. I know it. And to the audience, as always, thank you for tuning in. Hope you got a lot of value out of this. Hope you had a lot of fun listening, because we had fun making this and bringing it to you. If you did, don't forget, subscribe to the podcast, leave me a review on the Apple iTunes Store. If you're watching this on our YouTube channel, Mission Matters Marketing, give us a subscribe there, but also leave us some comments on the video. I mean, I'd love to know what's going on in your world, and keep the conversation going on the YouTube community. And JC, thanks again for coming on the show.